Hello! Today I'm going to be talking about emerging markets. An emerging market is a country where their economy is advancing towards becoming a developed nation. It has characteristics of developed markets as it's beginning to mold itself and guide the country towards those economic principles. However, it has not been completely achieved yet. This term is used for markets that have fast evolving economies, in contrast to frontier markets that have slower evolving economies. Emerging markets are classified based on different socio-economic factors such as economic development, market accessibility, and income. There are, of course, many other factors, and each specific website or index uses different factors to classify these countries. However, they are mainly about these three things, which were economic development, market accessibility, and income in the country. Using this classification, the BRIC countries are the largest emerging markets currently. These are Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Today, specifically, I'm going to be talking about the UAE or the United Arab Emirates. This country is made up of 7 emirates that come together in one country. It is situated in Western Asia and it is part of the Gulf Cooperation Council or the GCC. The GCC is made up of 6 Arab countries that together are some of the economic powerhouses when it comes to petroleum and oil export and import in the world. The countries in these category are Kuwait, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, and Oman. The UAE specifically is the most diversified economy in the GCC, and it is that way because recently it has started to have much innovation in many different sectors, not just oil and petroleum as the other GCC countries. The UAE also is one of 3 countries that are classified as emerging markets in the GCC. The other ones are Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and all 3 of them are fairly recent additions. The UAE and Qatar specifically have only been added in 2014, and Saudi Arabia much more recently as this year. So the innovation in Dubai came under the reign of Sheikh Zayed, the first president of the UAE. His reign was from 1971 to 2004, and he really pulled the country into the 21st century. There was intense innovation and progress made during this time, as his plan was to divert all the oil revenue in the UAE into research in certain areas such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure, and improve those areas. And he thought that was how the country could really improve on an international scale. UAE's most populated city, Dubai, is now a global city and a tourist hub and an aviation hub. In most recent years, the country has economically relied on business and tourism, and that has boosted their economy greatly. And that is the main reason for their classification. So while they're fairly new to emerging market status, they have been trying to innovate for a long time. Their focus has always been on long-term growth. There was a quick rise in their economy from about 2004-2008, where the switch from oil to service and tourism-oriented innovation really took hold in the country. A lot of the invested capital at this time, however, came from expatriates and not from inside the country. It came mainly from Iran. And they started building mega projects such as Jumeirah Palm, Dubai Marina, and the well-known world's tallest building, Burj Khalifa. And so while there was a Dubai property boom, however, at its peak where their prices were highest and everyone was trying to buy into this country, there was suddenly a big economic crisis and the Dubai property boom immediately plummeted. There was debt and inability to finish projects, and their real estate prices dropped dramatically. And so what was once a tourist hub in the GCC and this part of the world in the Middle East really started to look like a desert town. And what happened was that it took them about 2 years, so about 2011 to 2012 was when they really got their footing back, because they got help from Abu Dhabi, which had a big reliance, which still relied a lot on their oil wealth, which was Dubai's idea for innovation. However, it was their downfall because they did turn away from petroleum. And so using the oil wealth from Abu Dhabi, they started to rebuild. However, that money and that innovation did not really actually promote or improve the city until 2013 specifically, which I will get to in a minute. However, after this economic crisis, they put regulations in place in order to ensure that their economic crisis would not happen again. Of course, today they are much more refined and much more specific. However, at the time, they put this in place to regulate and to stop future economic crises. They limited the amount of borrowers that are allowed to borrow money in a year. Property transfer fees rose from 2% to 4% to discourage property transfer. There were restrictions on international companies buying real estate. They had to have a presence in Dubai, and companies could not buy it. It had to be people owning it. It couldn't be companies. And that made the price of property stable in the country for a little while. As for now, they have risen. In 2013 is when this country really solidified and started to go upwards in their economy, which is with the announcement of Expo 2020, which is a master plan for economic growth. It is one of, I believe, two major master plans in this country, and I will be talking about both of them today and their effect on the UAE. The motto for Expo 2020 is Connecting Minds, Creating the Future. Their focus is on sustainability, mobility, and opportunity. And they are using these in order to create a path for the UAE and bring their innovations to the forefront of the world and move from emerging market to a developed nation classification. So how they're doing this is by putting in new regulations. So this is the connecting minds part, by bringing the world into the UAE. So the new regulations are 55.5% foreign ownership is now allowed in the UAE. There is no income tax in this country if you start your company. And there's also latest communications infrastructure put into media-free zones that have 10% foreign ownership and 100% foreign ownership and no tax office space. So this allowed the UAE market to be open to the rest of the world. So international companies are now coming here and distributing their products in this part of the world. As for the protect the environment and creating the future sustainably part of their motto, they have created new sustainable methods of generating electricity, specifically solar electricity in Masdar City here in Dubai, and they have many renewable energy developments. Sheikh Mohammed, who is running this green economy initiative, wants to protect the environment and support the growth of economy through protecting the environment, put together 6 main goals for the country to target in order to ensure a green economy. 1 is the field of green energy, which is to promote production and use of green. 2, government policies to encourage investments and facilitate production, import, re-export, and export of green products and technology. 3 is developing urban planning policies to have efficient housing and buildings. 4 is to deal with effects of climate change by promoting organic agriculture and maintain biodiversity and protect ecological balance. 5, rationing water, electricity, and natural resources and limiting the waste that comes out of this country. And 6, development and promotion of green tech. For me, I believe the most important one of these points is point 2, which is government policies to encourage investments and facilitate production, import, export, and re-export of green products and tech. Because with support of government and government funding, people are now able to really put time and effort and research into these fields, and not just for it to be a motto that the country will blindly follow and just assume stuff will happen in 2020. The country is really taking steps in order to ensure that by 2020 the country looks like what they were aiming for, and because the government is backing them, that's making it a lot more plausible. Another master plan in the UAE is Vision 2021. Expo 2020 is pushing for UAE infrastructure change, but most of the infrastructure in this country is getting a change due to this Vision 2021 plan, which happens to be coinciding with UAE's 50th National Day, so it's a big year for this country. Their motto is a shift to a diversified and knowledge-based economy, and this is headed by the Ministry of Cabinet Affairs. And so again, this is all government funded and government supported, which allows the country to be more volatile when coming to planning and taking risks in these different areas. So in order to achieve Vision 2021, their aim is to be united in responsibility, destiny, knowledge, and prosperity. It is basically trying to unite all the aspects of living in the UAE into one innovative classification of an emerging developed nation. And it is done by putting multiple targets in place. I will tell you some of them. However, there are many more because this plan is very detailed and very extreme because, as I said, it goes into many different parts of the country. Number one, they aim to be the best in the Human Development Index, which is really clear that they're focusing on that by their appointment of a Minister of Happiness in 2016, which sounds like it is not exactly a proper job. However, it is really showing that they care about their citizens and their well being and their mental states. Another thing that they're doing in Vision 2021 is they want to reduce lifestyle related diseases and promote preventative medicine. So while they have very effective public health care already, they are one of the best in the GCC. They have easy accessibility and the best doctors and equipment. They still want to make it better because they believe that their people deserve better. Because it's not just the country that they want to improve, it's the people and their livelihood. Another thing that the UAE is doing in Vision 2021 is infrastructure and environment improvement. They want to improve the quality of air, they want to preserve water and green energy. And so this connects into the Expo 2020. However, it is something on its own because it has more aspects to it and it has a long-term plan. It's 1 year longer than Expo 2020. However, it is looking further into the future than Expo 2020. They also want to achieve the best quality airports, ports, roads, electricity, and telecom infrastructure. They want to become the forerunner in smart services in the GCC, in the Middle East, and probably the world someday. And so they are taking extreme steps in order to ensure that will happen. And it's really obvious that the country is interested in that. Like I said, it's not just a motto that the country will assume will just be achieved in 2021. It is something that they are working hard and they are making sure that along the way they are putting stuff in place to ensure that it's happening. Like I said, it's monitored by the government, so they're ensuring that their targets are met. So the UAE is very specific in Vision 2021, and that has allowed them to innovate and create one of the most sophisticated cities in the Middle East. So the oil-based economy shift to focus on diverse aspects of life in the UAE is the best way for them to focus on innovations. Since they have become an emerging market, they have not started to slow down in their innovations. They have only started to speed up. Very soon the UAE is going to become a developed nation. And so why invest in the UAE? They're at, right now, market maturity currently is at the quality and convenience stage. Specifically, Abu Dhabi and Dubai might even be at the customization stage. So products that focus on basic needs or luxury products that do quality, convenience, and customization are being brought into this country. So virtually any company could invest into UAE and succeed because this place has a very big market and a very open market. And so people should really look into this country. In addition to that, purchasing power is present. The annual salary for someone working in the private sector in Dubai, for example, is 48,000 dirhams, which is equal to $13,000. In contrast, Abu Dhabi is 42,000 dirhams, which is $11,500. So this is a high amount of money. They put a lot of care into this country and its finance and its economy, and therefore lots of companies should consider this as a big step into expanding their companies into the rest of the world. So the opportunity is available here in the UAE, and everyone should be taking advantage of it by growing their businesses into this economy that has opportunity in ways that aren't available in other emerging markets. So the UAE is one of the best countries right now in the Middle East or the GCC with innovation. That is why companies should look into this country when trying to expand their markets, because here they have connection to the rest of the GCC, the rest of the Arab world, and frankly the rest of the world, because this is sort of a crossing of where everyone can meet in the middle from Eastern Asia to the Western world. Therefore, I believe that the UAE, specifically Dubai, is an emerging market that has potential like no other and is the strongest possible option for companies if they ever want to take their companies international and ensure their success. So that was me discussing the UAE as an emerging market. I thank you for your time.